Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for July 2nd. July 2nd is the 183rd day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, 184th in leap years, with 182 days remaining to the end of the year. This day is the midpoint of a common year because there are 182 days before and 182 days after it in common years, and 183 before and 182 after in leap years. The exact time of the middle of the year is at noon and falls on the same day of the week as New Year's Day in common years. Today's word is chevalier. It can be pronounced chevalier or chevalier. Chevalier is a noun that means a chivalrous man, one having qualities of courtesy, honor, bravery, gallantry, etc. This comes to us from Anglo-Norman, from French before that, and from Latin before that, words that mean horseman. Earliest documented use, 1377. And with that, we're going to start on this day in 1679 when Daniel Greysolon Sieir du Lhut first reached Lake Superior, about where the city that bears his name, Duluth, now lies. 1698, a man named Thomas Savery patented the first steam engine on July 2nd. On July 2nd, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted a resolution severing ties with the Kingdom of Great Britain, although the wording of the formal Declaration of Independence was not published until July 4th. On July 2nd, 1881, Charles Guiteau shot and fatally wounded U.S. President James Garfield, who ultimately died of complications from his wounds later in the year. This is the birthday of German-born Swiss poet, novelist, and painter Hermann Hesse, born July 2nd, 1877. His best-known works include the books Endymion, Steppenwolf, Siddhartha, and The Glass Bead Game, each of which explores an individual's search for authenticity, self-knowledge, and spirituality. In 1946, he received the Nobel Prize in Literature. I've read Siddhartha and highly recommend it, by the way. Hermann Hesse lived to the age of 85. The U.S. Congress passed the Sherman Antitrust Act on July 2, 1890. This was an act that sought to prevent artificial raising of prices by restriction of trade or supply, to preserve a competitive marketplace, and to protect consumers from abuse. British-Italian engineer Guglielmo Marconi obtained a patent for radio in London on July 2, 1897. The first Zepplin flight took place in Germany on July 2, 1900. This is the birthday of civil rights activist, lawyer, and Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, born July 2, 1908. He was the chief attorney for the plaintiff in the landmark case of Brown versus Board of Education, that case in 1954, and he was the first African American appointed to the Supreme Court in 1967. This is the birthday of Italian-French fashion designer Pierre Cardin, born July 2, 1922. He lived to the age of 98. This is the birthday of World War II veteran and civil rights activist Medgar Evers, born July 2, 1925. He was working to overturn the segregation at the University of Mississippi, end segregation of public facilities, and expand opportunities for African Americans, including the enforcement of voting rights, when he was assassinated by Byron Della Beckwith in 1963. Medgar Evers was 37 at the time of his death. This is the birthday of Filipino politician Imelda Marcos, born July 2, 1929. She became notorious for behaving as if her country were her own little personal serfdom, living in a lavish lifestyle during a period of economic crisis and civil unrest at the expense of taxpayers. She earned the name of Marie Antoinette with shoes, and her name has become an adjective, imeldific, which means ostentatiously extravagant, sometimes to the point of vulgarity. When the Marcoses fled the country under exile, she left behind 15 mink coats, 500 gowns, 888 handbags, and 3,000 pairs of shoes. This is the birthday of American businessman and philanthropist Dave Thomas, born July 2nd, 1932. He's known as the founder of Wendy's Hamburgers. Dave passed away at the age of 69. Now, we mentioned the Night of Long Knives the other day. You might remember that this was a political purge by assassination that they called extrajudicial executions. Interestingly, the phrase Night of the Long Knives in the German language predates these killings and generally refers to acts of vengeance. At least 85 people died in this purge, although the death toll is more likely to have been in the hundreds. In addition, more than 1,000 perceived opponents were arrested. All that to say that the Night of the Long Knives ended on July 2nd, 1934, with the death of Ernest Röhm, who was perceived as a potential rival to Hitler. Amelia Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan were last heard from on July 2nd, 1934, as they flew over the Pacific Ocean in an attempt to make the first equatorial around-the-world flight. This is the birthday of American race driver and sportscaster Richard Petty, born July 2nd, 1937. This is the birthday of American model and actress Jerry Hall, born July 2nd, 1956. She was common-law wife of Mick Jagger for a little bit more than 10 minutes. Actually, it was, I think, about 9 years. American novelist, short story writer, and journalist Ernest Hemingway died on July 2nd, 1961. He was notorious as a heavy drinker, which led to liver disease. He had become paranoid and fearful and committed suicide. He was 61. The first Walmart store opened for business in Rogers, Arkansas on July 2nd, 1962. On July 2nd, 1964, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This was the civil rights and labor law that outlaws discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. France conducted its first nuclear weapons test in the Pacific on July 2nd, 1966. Gonna Fly Now, the theme for Rocky, was the #1 song on the U.S. pop charts in July 2nd of 1977. Southern California truck driver Larry Walters became airborne with the help of a lawn chair and 42 helium-filled weather balloons on this date in 1982. Men in Black premiered in theaters on July 2nd, 1997. And I think that's going to do it for us today. I hope you learned something you didn't know before. I know I sure did. I always do. As always, links to my research are included in the show notes. Thank you so much for watching. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and feel free to share this video with others, which you could do with a link in an email, message, or social media. Images are retrieved from Bing Images, either public domain or licensed free to use and share. I think the correct terminology is free to share and use. Our lovely outro music is Divine Life Society by Jesse Gallagher from YouTube Music Library, and there's a link to his channel in the show notes. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. That might not make it into the video, we'll see. Changing it up.